The effects of 9/11 changed the world, and everyone knows that. But I'm sort of interested more in like the community of Tribeca and not really the global effects and its connection to community and service. So soon after the events of 9/11, do you think you had a role in your personal community, whether it be friends, family, or a neighborhood, in service?
Well, I can't speak for my own neighborhood because I don't. Cause my neighborhood uptown was not affected in that direct way, but I can certainly speak for the neighborhood in which I worked, which is Tribeca, and I think the neighborhood was enormously affected in a variety of ways. And first of all, a lot of people left the neighborhood. They didn't think they had to evacuate, and they didn't come back for a very long time. Some were afraid to come back. Some wasn't safe to come back. In some ways, some places their houses were a mess. But in spite of all the displacement, the neighborhood itself, I think, sort of rallied, and the community came together to support each other in remarkable ways. I mean, the city, everybody was giving the city the neighborhood services and things like that, but that's not the same as what people can do for each other and for themselves. And I think the amount of, I can just talk about it from the point of view of the school community. What happened in the school community is that everyone just became enormously energized in trying to create a wonderful place for the kids again, because there was so much feeling that the kids had suffered a great deal, both that day and then in the ensuing days, because of what the kids had lost. They'd lost their neighborhood, their homes, their security, their friends, their ability to. So we saw that in so many aspects of the school community. There's so many of the parents, whenever we moved, they would come in, and it was like every time it was like a barn raising. And then there were some people like your mother, like George Olson, other people Kathy Sussel, people who just came and never left. They just decided that the next, however long it would take, they would be in service to the children and the school and, in effect, to the community. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in my lifetime. I don't think I'll ever see anything like it again. But it was remarkable, and it remained so that when the children came out of it, and even when we went back to the school and we did a program to sort of give back, or a program to be welcomed back, there was this enormous outreach. Every child got invited to the coffee shop for lunch. We all went over to the firehouse to thank them, and to the police department, and the kids went over to Morgan's to thank all the people who had helped them and who they had helped. So I think even today probably there's a little that lingers a little bit, that sense of a close-knit community becoming even closer. Because remember, Tribeca always was a rather close-knit community to begin with.
During the course of the past 10 years, do you think your experience of 9/11 has affected your feelings of personal community and service?
Well, what remains, if you have a very strong personal experience, I think it stays with you. And what remains is, for me, mostly almost 90% of these incredibly powerful, strong feelings of affection and respect and memory of what the event was. And I don't know whether I would have felt that way if it had happened up in my neighborhood, but I have this lingering sense that Tribeca was a very neutral community, that it was very small, that it united, that it moved forward, that it was resilient, that people were very cooperative and consensual in making decisions for themselves, and at the same time very protective. So I continue to believe that about that neighborhood, and I certainly, whenever I think back, those memories are very powerful.
Thinking about your community, and by that I mean your friends, your family, or your neighborhood, what change do you see, if in any of those?
Well, Tribeca is just a different place now, isn't it? I don't know. I don't know how much of that is a result of 9/11, but it's physically a different place. The people are different. The size is different. The scope is different. The socioeconomics are different. I don't think neighborhoods change that fast in cities the way this one did, and I think it only happened because it was so underdeveloped to begin with. But it's like in 10 years, it's a totally different place. And first of all, economically, went from right after 9/11 to from a very, very depressed place to, the most burgeoning, expensive neighborhood in New York. So,
in your opinion, overall, would you say that you feel or experience from your community positive effects or negative effects from?
I think overall it's positive, but there's always people who meet each other or see each other or who were involved in that experience. There's always a kind of lingering, sadness and awe and memory that affects all of us. It certainly affects me. I'm happy to talk about it with anyone who went through it with me, but I do not like discussing it with people who were not there, and I really get upset when people are sort of voyeuristic about it and want to have a vicarious experience or want to be told about it because it's so deeply personal. But I don't feel that way about anybody who was there. I'm willing to talk, hey, remember that? Oh, wow, that was something. And I wouldn't have not only the same conversation, but I wouldn't have the same affect, the same attitude, the same intonations with anybody who wasn't there, because that's only for the insiders.
Yeah.
On the outside, it's a much more holy, restricted, protected.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I do. I don't like talking to people who are uptown or in Colorado or something.
Right, and if you did have to, you would be serious. But if you're with your friends who were there at the moment, you might remember something, saying, "Oh my God, remember that happened at St. Bernard's?" Or, "Oh, that was the worst till we got back this." Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is. That's how I feel. Thank you.